My name is Anwar Haneef. I'm the GM and head of ecosystem at Canva. So my presentation is a little bit different. It's called giving you a playbook. What I'm going to talk about here is less theory and more about our experience building agents as well as working with agents and AI assistants. When I talk to founders, engineering leaders, and developers and other ecosystem people in the industry today, right? They ask a couple of different questions. Three questions primarily. First question is, will agents replace my product? Pretty common. How do I build integrations that agents can find? And then the third question I always get is, how do I build our own agents, or should I be building our tools for other agents to use? So my team is focused on how AI tools can help. Most teams are focused on how AI can be used to build things faster, right? But there's a bigger shift happening, and the shift is that AI agents are starting to make decisions on which tools to use, which products to use. And with agents becoming more widespread, what we focused on is we started to ask a very different question at Canva. And the question we were asking is, how do we make sure that agents are reaching out for Canva as a product? So the instinct in the industry has been to frame this question in one of two forms. One is you build an agent, or two, you build a tool for agents. We didn't necessarily see it that way. So the way we thought about it is, why don't we build our own agentic platform, as well as make sure that our product is available as a tool for other agents to use? And the reason we did this is because of three shifts that we saw in the industry. The number one shift, and this really helped us think and evaluate how we think about our strategy and how we engineer our solutions to accommodate this new world. So the number one shift that we saw is that the first shift is behavioral. And the reason for this is because humans browse UIs, but agents use APIs, right? So if your value is locked behind a graphical user interface, agents can't find them. I mean, unless, of course, they use computer use, but that's even more complicated. So it brings us back to our earlier question. How do we make sure that your tools, our tools and capabilities are available and discoverable by agents? The second shift is about distribution. So we've seen this before with mobile. And in the mobile scenario, what we've seen is that the companies that really won are the ones that embraced the users and met the users where they are, which is, they saw mobile as a first-class citizen. So agents are sort of like this new surface, and you need to treat it as a first-class citizen. Now, the third shift is where things start to get really interesting, and this is about value. Now, so a human, right, they might pick a product based on how beautiful the interface is, or because a colleague recommended the product to them. But the thing with agents is that agents really don't care. I mean, all an agent really cares about is, does your product do the thing that it needs to do reliably at that instant, at that moment in time? So this is why domain expertise continues to be very, very relevant. So when we looked at creating value, right, we observed that with AI, it's the barrier for creating images, has significantly dropped. So what we did is, when we looked at our product, what we really understood is that the building the right designs on brand, being able to make them structurable, editable, and publishable is really what the value is. So what we focus on is we focus on doubling down on what our core competency is, which is the art of creating designs that are modifiable by users. So let me give you some context on why we made that decision, right? So Canva, as many of you might know, is a product that makes it incredibly easy for people to create visual designs. And we bring all the different products that you need to do to create things. We bring in creative products, we bring productivity tools, all that into one single platform. And this is rooted in our mission to empower the world to design and make it easy for anyone to publish anywhere. And from day one, it pushed us to think about how Canva can be we've always been thinking about Canva as an interoperable platform. So we embraced AI as an accelerant to our mission. What we've done is we've embraced AI and made it a key part of how we enable our mission pillars, as well as how we operate as an organization and how we build our products within the company. So Today, more than 250 million users use Canva every month, making us one of the most popular platforms in the internet today. And this scale enables us to think about, we need to think about engineering constraints as we think about this scale, right? We're not the biggest platform, but we're still a fast-growing platform with a lot of users using us around the globe. Now, our users are also using a lot of our AI capabilities. Today, we have over 27 billion uses of our AI capabilities by our users globally. That makes us the third most used AI product on the internet today, according to Anderson Horowitz. So our goal is to connect our users with, our goal is to connect every tool that our users to get their work done. And that means that we need to make sure that we bring all the tools that millions of our users use around the world and make it accessible on one single platform. Today, we have over 1,700 apps on our platform with over 4,000 developers building on our ecosystem. Now, what we've also done is we've tried to make things simple by enabling our users to create all these tools and access all these tools in one single place. So what we did is we built Canva AI 2.0, which is a product that we launched last month that allows users to have an agentic, have a conversational interaction for our users to use all these different products together. So all of this is powered on our foundational design models. The first of its kind model that really understands design. It understands the visual layout, the structure, brand, hierarchy, and brings all that together to create designs based on a goal that a user defines to the conversational agent. Now, but the thing is, agents require something new. So we've not only been able to connect with other platforms, we've also made it easy for our AI to be easily accessible within all these different AI assistant platforms. The way we did that is historically we had APIs, we've had a developer platform, we've had apps. What we did is we introduced our Canva MCP server. And our Canva MCP server allows us to have one single interface by which we can interact with all these different AI assistant platforms and AI agents. Now, the thing is, we're not necessarily beholden to one single protocol, but it allows us to create one single interface by which we can universally plug into all these different platforms. And it helps us to position Canva as the visual design layer for AI. Now, this willingness to integrate with AI, LLMs, with AI assistants dates back to 2023 when we were first integrated into ChatGPT. We're part of the custom GPTs back in 2023. We launched it at the OpenAI Dev Day event. We continue to build more MCP connectors for ChatGPT, deep research, and ChatGPT interactive apps. We worked with Claude last year, building into Claude MCP, Claude apps, as well as most recently, we integrated Canva into Claude Design so people can create initial drafts in Claude Design and then port it over into Canva. So, and with Canva AI, what we've done is we've also integrated Canva with all sorts of different platforms like Notion and Gmail and Slack and all these different ways, all these different platforms by which we can bring context from those platforms over into Canva. So what we learned along the way is that it's one thing to be able to integrate with all these different platforms, but it's also increasingly important for us to build our own AI capabilities and bring those capabilities into these different platforms. So as we've increased the number of connectors that we've built with all these different platforms, we've also increased the number of AI capabilities that we have natively within our product itself. Now, millions of people have accessed Canva through their favorite AI assistants today. What I'm going to talk about next is the playbook and learnings from integrating with all these different platforms and running a series of different experiments to figure out what really works. So I think learning number one for us is we need to treat your MCP setup as a living system. And the reality is that when we built this integration for the first time, we made a lot of mistakes. A part of it is because we were focused on getting to market quickly and trying to get learnings as quickly as possible. So every decision that we made, like where we placed shared tools, created problems over time. But what we did is in addition to being able to move quickly, we consciously designed our architecture so that we can deploy things quickly, make changes, rapidly iterate, and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then change things accordingly. Infrastructure choices that we made initially that felt like a nice to have or like a quick hack for us to make progress started to become constraints as we started to get scale. So things like hosting decisions, for example, the hosting provider that we chose, how we hosted our MCP server, all those started to become bottlenecks over time. So these are things that, in hindsight, we would have obviously changed, but the advantage we had is we could get these learnings early and then bring back and make sure that what we build for the future is, we had a really good understanding of where the market is headed, and we could adapt for the future. The early signals for us were really good. We started to see hundreds of thousands of people creating designs on these AI systems using our Canva MCP server, and that encouraged us to continue to invest in the space and do even more. Second learning for us is that because you're using MCP doesn't mean that you don't need to have good API design discipline. So MCP is only a surface. The underlying APIs, if they're poorly scoped or if they're ambiguous, it creates more issues, and it doesn't necessarily disappear just because you have an MCP layer on top. It becomes harder to debug things over time. So what we did is the investments that we made in our REST APIs, or Connect APIs as we call them, actually helped us pay dividends as we started to focus on building on MCP, building our MCP reliability over time. The corners that we cut started to hurt us, and obviously we incurred some tech debt that we went back and proceeded to fix. Third learning for us is that agents can be quite picky. The way agents call your services might be very different from how you originally anticipated them. There's some examples where we expected the agents to call us a certain ways, but then because of the variable nature in which they process, the reasoning models process and figure out how to invoke our services, those things were beyond what we had expected. But those learnings help us make sure that we're building the right kind of surface for agents to interact with us. And the building experience for agents requires a first principles approach, and these learnings that we learned from how agents interacted with us helped us create a better agent experience. Retrofitting human experiences doesn't necessarily translate well for agent experience, and therefore today we have a much more sharper focus on how to create agent experiences dedicated for agents as a first-class citizen user. The fourth learning is engineering trust at a protocol level isn't necessarily a one-time task. It's an ongoing thing, and it compounds with every new platform that you integrate with. OAuth setup, Okta configuration, credential management, all these things were constant friction points for every platform that we integrated with. And these are the kind of blockers that keep slowing you down, especially as you're trying to scale your service and make that available on multiple different platforms. Today, we treat a trust architecture as a first-class product feature and not just as infrastructure. This makes sure that we ensure that the agents that interact with us have a good experience, and the trust architecture is well designed for that. The fifth learning, maybe the last one here, is agentic landscape doesn't necessarily reward generalists. Canva's bet was to be the undisputed visual design platform for the agentic web and for AI assistants. So what we did is we focused on making sure that the capabilities that we provide, whether it's creating a sales deck or a social presentation or any kind of visual design, we wanted to make sure that these agents they called Canva when they wanted to create the design. For example, when EY created a sales agent with Snowflake, they reached out to us to create the visual component of creating those presentations on behalf of their agentic system. So the question, what I would leave for everyone in this room is, what is that one thing that your product does really, really well that you can use to distinguish yourself in this space where agents are finding the tools that they need to invoke? Because in the agentic stack, the tools that do one thing exceptionally well are the products that these agents reach out to. So from our standpoint, we think that the agentic era is the biggest growth opportunity for the next decade. And Canva, this is the moment we've been building towards for the past couple of years. To make the most out of this moment, the way we've designed our ecosystems is to create a compounding feedback loop. So every time our agents get invoked externally, it gives us insights and gives us knowledge that allows us to make our models better. Every time our users use our own agent inside our platform, it even gets better over time. So what this does is it creates that flywheel effect where we have constant feedback loops helping us make sure that we have the better ability to create designs on behalf of our users, whether it's agents invoking our services or our own agents being used directly by our users. And once this feedback loop is spinning, what it does is it allows us to make sure that every next design that we create is even better, giving us that competitive advantage in the market. So maybe just kind of to wrap this up quickly, so the winners of the agentic era will be the tools that agents rely on to execute on. And that happens when you build continued value on your own platform and have the tools that integrate with external agents really well. So I think the 3 takeaways for everyone, what I would like to share with everyone here is, number 1, make sure that you think about agent experience as a first-class citizen. Don't try to retrofit human experiences. Focus on creating an experience where your products and your capabilities are presented to agents in an easy to consume and easy to discover manner. The second thing is to make sure that look at the shift in how agents are looking out for services and they're discovering services that they lock into. The way they do that is by making sure that the way you stand out is by making sure that your services are easily discoverable by agents and easily accessible. And the third thing is focus on your competitor differentiation and invest in your domain expertise. So for example, we focused on visual design. We focused on making sure that we're presented as the platform for agents when it comes to creating design. Similarly, focus on what that differentiator is for your product, and then make sure that's the world-class and the best out there. So with that, I'd like to thank you. And to learn more, you can go to canva.com/developers and feel free to use our MCP agent. Thank you.